By the end of this video, you'll be able to make your own disgusting 808. There's really not too many recent videos on this topic. That's because a lot of us content creators are selling you sounds. So what I'm doing right now is the equivalent of KFC revealing to you their secret ingredient that makes that supple, sweet, crispy chicken skin, then still expecting you to buy their chicken when you could just make that shit at home. But fuck it. I'm gonna be showing you two methods that you can use to make 808. The first method using Serum, and the second method using a mystery VST. Let's get into it. Now, like I said, I'll be using Serum for the first method, but if you have no method of acquiring Serum legally, then you can use a free plugin like Vital. Now, I do not claim to be some sound design god, but I'm gonna just show you how I do shit. Now, before we make our 808s, let me just give you a quick rundown on Serum, just in case you're new to it. Before we even do anything, we're gonna go to global. We're gonna make sure show help tooltips is clicked on. This will just make it so if we don't know what a setting does, we can just hover over it and it will tell us. Now with Serum, we have four main oscillators. An oscillator just means it's something that generates sound. We've got this sub oscillator, a noise oscillator, oscillator A, and oscillator B. I know this is a lot of settings to look at, but we'll only be focusing on a few of them. Now these oscillators help to generate the sound. These envelopes help to shape the sound. We've got our attack, hold, decay, sustain, release. Think of these settings like when we're in FL Studio and we want to shape our 808. It sounds like this normally. Then if we play with the attack, so it's the same thing really. The attack controls how long the sound takes to get to full volume. The hold controls how long the sound will stay at peak volume before dropping down. The decay controls how long it will take the sound to drop down to 0. And the sustain is the level the sound remains while you hold the key down. Drop this down. So if we turn our decay all the way down, we can use the decay like so. You don't need to remember all of these definitions. As you play with the settings, it will just make sense. Now for the LFOs. While our envelopes help shape the sound as a whole, whatever LFO shapes we make will constantly repeat as long as the note is being played. Right now, this LFO isn't being used, but if we click on it, we can drag it to any of these settings. So let's drag it to random setting like pan. As you can see, it just repeats as long as the sound is going on for. And we can edit the sound of this too. So this top half of Serum is about generating the sound. This bottom half is about manipulating and shaping it. There's a hell of a lot more to this VST that I don't even know about yet, but this is all you need to know for now. By the way, quick heads up, if you're watching this on a phone, it might be a little hard to hear what's going on initially, depending on the phone speakers you got. Let's turn on this typing keyboard to piano keyboard so that when we press C, it'll hit a C, and that's way faster when you're sound designing than going into the piano roll, laying down a note, then pressing space every time. All right, let's switch this preset to analog BD. Let's drop this down a few octaves. Nice. Now this RAND setting means random phase, which means every time we hit a key, it's gonna start from a different point in the wave shape, which is not what we want for sound design. So let's drop that to 0. Now let's increase the attack of the envelope a bit so the 808 kind of swells. Now let's increase the decay so that's a bit longer. And then let's drop the sustain so that it kind of fades out a bit. We want to make like a dark, gritty UK drill sound in 808. Let's turn on oscillator B to layer over oscillator A. And now let's select a preset. Yeah, that's nice. Next, we'll map our LFO to this WT pos setting, which stands for wavetable position. This creates a sense of motion in the sound. If we go to 3D view by clicking on this, as you can see, as we change this value, our wavetable position is changing. So now that we've mapped this LFO to the wavetable position, as you can see, it's doing something. Let's turn on this trigger setting. This will make it so every time you hit the note, it will start from the beginning of the shape, no matter what. Now we'll drop down this rate so that it takes longer for the shape to complete. Like so. Now let's play with this position a little bit. Yeah, I like that. It sounds aggressive. Yeah, that's good. Now let's turn back on our second oscillator. What the fuck? Let's drop this down a bit so the LFO affects it a bit less. Let's try a different preset. This sounds a bit like a burp. Let's drop the level a bit. Yeah, that's hard. Now let's add a filter, which is pretty much an EQ. Let's go for the low 18. Let's drive it up a bit. Okay, I just realized I wasn't actually playing my 808 in C. It should sound like this. Make sure you always keep your 808 in C so that when it's time to cook up, the notes you're laying down are accurate. Let's try one of these multi filters actually. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Now let's go into this effects tab. There's hella effects. Let's try the distort. Let's try one of these presets. Let's drop the mix a bit. Now for the fun part.
This is where the fun begins.
Use whatever effects or VSTs that you want. Personally, I like to use thermal, which is fucking goated for 808s. Yeah, I like this preset. Sounds hard. Let's make it a bit more subtle. Be careful with using too much effects though, because you can make something that sounds sick by itself, but then when you use it on a beat, pure shit. So don't go too overboard. Now I'm just adding a soft clipper to the master so that it doesn't clip. Now I'm using Ozone Imager. What I'm doing is keeping the lows as they are, and then just making the mids and highs a bit wider. So I'm just messing around with these settings really till it sounds good to me. Yeah, that's good. Now I've applied a fruity chorus to that, and also an EQ. Next we're gonna add some sausage fattener just for some distortion. Then we're gonna go back into the Serum effects tab and we're gonna use some hyperdimension. But we wanna make that quite subtle. Now that it's sounding how we like, we'll open up Edison and make sure it's after your soft clipper because the order of your VSTs matter. We're gonna hit this little red record button, then we're gonna press Z. Click on stop. Next we'll highlight the start of the sound, hit this button, which deletes all of the silence before the sound starts. Then we'll go to this magnet and make sure snap to zero crossing is on. This will make it so whatever you highlight will snap to the points where there's no sound so that we don't delete part of our sound by accident. So we'll highlight this. As you can see, it's not letting us drag any further. Go to cut. Then we'll highlight all the sound, press this to normalize the sound, which will just normalize the volume. Now there's two ways to export. We can drag it to the playlist, export it, make sure tempo sync is off, or the faster method is just to drag it straight from Edison into the folder of your choice. And a rule of thumb is always to give your sounds a test after you make them. I've got this test file here. As you can see here, there's nothing on the mixer track for the 808. So this is how it's sounding raw. By the way, real quick, just wanted to let you know that my latest drum kit, Serum, has just gotten an expansion with 15 more 808s, 8 more drum fills, 4 more perk loops, 5 more Vox. But the good news is, if you bought a copy of Serum up until today, 26th of December, I've sent you the expansion for free. My New Year's present to you. If you haven't grabbed the full drum kit yet though, you can head to the link in the description and grab that with the expansion at a discounted price. Anywho, back to the video. Now our next method is using a VST called Chopi. This VST was originally intended for synthesizing kicks, but we can use it for 808s and other sounds too. It essentially splits a sound into 3 different categories. The transient, which is the start of the sound, the body, which is the middle, and the tail, which is the end. And we can drag our own sounds into each part. This won't work for every single sound, but if you get a bit creative with it, you can come up with some fire 808s. Let's make one now. All right, as you can see, this first preset is a kick. Let's try grabbing this jerk spins and using it on the transient. And then for the body, let's use this Holy Grail 808. Now let's zoom out a bit and then extend these. And let's use Holy Grail for the tail as well. Yeah, that's hard. Now what we can do is we can send that to a mixer track and just like before, use some effects to just make it sound crazy. As you can see with this shit, the possibilities are endless. If you guys enjoyed the video and want me to make another one covering kicks, percussion, or whatever else, drop a comment down below and let me know. Like I mentioned before, my drum kit expansion is out, so definitely check that out in the link below. Happy New Year. None of this New Year's resolution, New Year, New Me bullshit. Just start doing what you need to start doing and don't stop. Take care.